Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Welcome to the review. I am your technical critic, and this is going to be my review of not only Episode 8 for Legend of Korra, Remembrances, but also Episode 7, Reunion. My apologies to everyone who came here last week. I'm afraid that after I made my reaction video, I became very ill. I was unable to get out of bed, and as such, I was unable to make a review last week. So this week, I'll be reviewing Episode 7 and Episode 8. I'm still a little bit sick, so hopefully I'll be able to get through the review and talk about everything I would like to. Because, let's face it, we have a lot of controversy with these two episodes. However, before I begin any of that, I'm going to ask you to like, to favorite, to subscribe, but most of all, to leave a comment down below, because this is not just a review, it is also a discussion. Your comments and questions matter. So, if you would like to participate in the discussion, if you have anything at all about Korra or television or anything at all that you'd like to ask, comments, questions, opinions, whatever, leave it down there, and at the very end after the review, I read the comments and I talk about them in our discussion. I answer any questions you have, I talk about your opinions, and we have a nice back and forth. You can talk to each other, you can talk to me, it's however you like. And we all like to have fun. So, this is going to be the review portion. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode, come back, and then you can discuss with us, and we'll all have fun. Alright, let's begin. Now, for the last week, a lot of my fellow reviewers have been calling Episode 7, the reunion, a filler episode. And I have to say, no. There's a reason for that. In terms of story, you're absolutely right. Not much happened. It was very action-heavy, and there wasn't much opportunity for anything of significance to really occur. If you said, well, what significant occurred? Nothing really. However, in terms of character development, we saw quite a bit, because we have a situation on our hands. We have, for the very first time in 3 years, Korra, Mako, and Asami. I tried to say Asami after Mako for some reason, it messed up. But Korra, Mako, and Asami are going to be coming back together, and they're finally going to be seeing each other for the first time in 3 years. Now, Bolin's not going to be there, obviously, because he's still with Varric, and his B-plot is also very important in terms of where the story is going. So, but we'll leave that for a little bit later. And how all of the friends react to seeing one another is going to be very telling as to character development, who the characters are now, as to who they were before, and everything that's going to happen further on from here is going to be built from this interaction. And a lot of us who have been Korra-Asami shippers since Season 3 are very invested in this episode, because we're saying to ourselves, oh my god, Korra and Asami are going to meet, how's it going to be? And to be quite honest, this is what we expected. As you can see, it looks beautiful. It's Korra, Asami. That is everything we wanted in one gift. And I have to say, thank you, Rin, Oliver. Her Twitter's down below. You gotta go check her out. Thank you for finding that for me. Thank you for creating that on DeviantArt, because oh my god, that has to be my favorite GIF of them all. I mean, just wow. So, that's what we were all expecting to see. That's not what we got at all. We got a hug, some blushing, and a lot of people were on the fence about this. They were saying, you know what? This just shows that Korra and Asami, they're nothing but friends. And a lot of people on the other side were saying, no, it shows so much more. It shows that, yeah, sure, they didn't go and they grab each other and kiss each other the way that so many people wanted them to. And it's a very divided argument. However, I would have to say, if we're going to look at implications, what we do see and what we don't see, let's look at another series that actually dealt with this kind of relationship, except for the male-male. It's called Brideshead Revisited. It's a TV show that was made in 1981, and it had to do with two young aristocratic men who met at Oxford University. It's an English costume drama. It's a very good one apparently, and it basically goes through their entire relationship in terms of their friendship as they go through their life and everything that revolves around that. And I remember hearing the creator of the show talking about it, and he said that he did believe that there was a relationship going on between the two of them, a homosexual relationship going on between the two of them. However, at the time, just having the two of them together in the certain situations they were, the way they interacted with one another, everything that you would see as intimate is then implied in the viewer's mind. And he also said that if he was to remake the show today, he would then add in all of the other intimate scenes that normally you get. Now let's look at Korra and Asami underneath the exact same context. We do see them have intimate scenes. We see them opening up to each other. We see them talking to each other. We even see Korra in probably one of the most telling moves go and write to Asami in the case where she did not write to Mako, she did not write to Bolin, and that gets brought up as a point of contention in this particular episode, and the episode makes a point of reminding you that that is something that happened, and that it's clearly an uncomfortable point between Korra and Asami that they didn't tell Mako, but more to the point, they don't see it as something that they did wrong between the two of them. There's at no point does Asami ever say, look, you should have written to Mako, you should have written to Mako or Bolin, not just me, and at no point does Korra ever say, well, you know what, I shouldn't have just not written to Asami. I should have written to you or Bolin. But instead, what she said is, look, I didn't know what to say to the two of you. Whereas she did know what she wanted to say. She did know what she wanted to confide in Asami. So when you take that on top of their interaction scene, where it's two people who have clearly not seen each other in a very long time, and you look at the implication and you say, okay, if I was looking at what a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or a girlfriend and a girlfriend, and a boyfriend and a boyfriend, how the two of them were interacting with each other, I would say, yes, there is a relationship going on between the two of them. Just because we don't see her go and grab Asami and the two of them passionately kiss and blush the way that we saw in the GIF just now. What else can... I mean, to be quite frank, it's all implication, and it's all being implied in the viewer's head. So it really then is up to the viewer. If when you watch The Legend of Korra and you see Asami and you see Korra and you see the two of them together, the question then is, well, do you see Korra and Asami being more than just friends, or do you just see them being friends? And if you do, guess what? This is the brilliance that the writers have really come up with in terms of writing characters. They went and they said, look, if you need more and you need more to prove it, then that's on you. It's not on us. If you're okay with what you see and you see it as the two of them having a relationship, anything that's intimate is happening off screen, that's up to you. If you see it and you're like, well, you know what, I just see two friends being completely platonic and this was all done logically, Korra and Asami are both girls, so she feels she can open up to her more, blah, 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 that's on you as well. And it really is liberating. I mean, and when you look at the number of Korra Asami shippers there are out there, and it doesn't matter what their personal preference is, straight, trans, cis, whatever, it's so interesting to see that everyone looks at the relationships Korra has had with the boys, or that Asami or that Korra and Asami have both had with a particular boy, and then you look at the relationship that the two of them have had together, which is the one that they prefer. The majority, almost 68% of people who watch Avatar look at the two of them and say, hey, you know what, these two actually work as a couple. And this episode really does hone in on that. It hones in on that ambiguity and that intimacy and the slight hints here and there, and it says, okay, you know what? You, the audience, you build up on the rest of that. And I did feel that that was good. However, and this is something that is my own personal, if you notice, this is one of my reviewing sticks. When Korra and Asami met and they didn't kiss, that's the first break. When Korra and Asami started to argue with each other, that's the second one. And this is something that I did feel was extremely out of place in terms of their relationship. When Korra and Asami see each other, the second that they start arguing over the fact that Asami has gone and seen her father, it feels out of place because that kind of conversation needs to take place between the two of them in a more private space, in a less, hey, we just got together again. This is something I've been doing and you need to know about it immediately. No. In terms of the relationship dynamic, I think this would have been better if we had a separate scene in which Korra and Asami are alone together. Like, for example, when Mako went to go and check on Prince Wu, if they were alone together, they were just talking gently and generally, and they were talking intimately, and then you see Asami open up about this, and then you see the friction start to happen, because it's understandable that when someone cares about you, if you're then interacting with the father who was Korra's enemy, and now the father is trying to win back Asami's affections, if you care about that person, it does raise alarm bells, and that is something that they would bring up, like, are you sure you can trust him? Asami then retaliating and saying, look, don't you think I know to be careful around my own father? Then that seems to have been better placed. It's not that it wasn't done well, it's just that it could have been done better. Moving on from there, in terms of the action scenes of the episode, it was really good to see Team Avatar working together again to try and get the job done. Although, I have to say, in terms of the villain, it felt like something out of Captain America. Simply because when they're going after Prince Wu's kidnappers. They catch them, they can't find Prince Wu, they slam the guy up against the truck and they're like, where the hell is Prince Wu? He's like, all hail the great uniter, and the only thing that I could think of at that particular point was, hail Hydra from the Captain America movies. Because that's really what I thought when I saw that in terms of stuff we've seen borrowed. To see them all working together, it's like, hey, you should take this road. Hey, you know what? I've built some of these roads. I know what I'm doing. And just them working to try and get the job done. Korra using her newfound ability of looking through the spirit vines. She practiced it with Toph in the swamp. Now she sees the spirit wilds here. Not using it offensively, just, hey, you know what? This is something that I tried once. I can try it again and see if it worked. It does. And then Korra becoming more confident with that particular attribute, and then going and using it to help her save the prince. I felt that was truly very dynamic of the character, and it shows us her growth in terms of ability. So I thought that was well done. It was really well done. Moving on to the Bolin side of things. His B-plot was extremely important in terms of story and just in terms of background information for the story. Having Bolin and Varric find captives who were prisoners in one of the Earth Kingdom camps, and then them having to go and escape from this Earth Kingdom province. It's very important because it really shows us what the backlash, what the consequences of Kuvira's coup really are taking shape. She's not just politically posturing. She's not just saying, look, no one from any other kingdom is allowed within our borders. No, she is and they specifically say this, she is eliminating and cleansing. The word cleansing is used. And if they had said ethnic cleansing, I think that this show would have had to be pulled from the air. But you know what? It is heavily implied. They say thrown in prison. They don't say executed, but I'm sure it happened. So that was extremely telling, and it was very necessary for us to see just how deep the rabbit hole goes without actually seeing it. Again, it's that implication. It's like, well, if this is what we are hearing about, then what we're seeing must be, etc., etc., etc. And again, seeing Bolin come into his own, it really shows, look, there is no going back. He sees the consequences of what he's done. And this is going to push him. It really is going to push him right back onto the side of the good guys. We see Varric, and he is pretty much Tony Stark in this. He's using his mechanical knowledge to create an electromagnetic impulse, an EMP blast, out of a table leg, a piece of wire, and a giant battery. It is entertaining, and it really does show us what we're up against, because you've got the benders, you've got firebenders, waterbenders, and Bolin, the magma bender, going up against these guys. They cannot take out the Kuvira's soldiers in their mech suits. It just really shows, you know what, these guys are powerful. They own the playing field. So you know what, we need the Avatar to come in and fix this. This is not something that is just going to get resolved by nations talking to one another or by armies fighting it out. Because it's the problem is way too they are way too overpowered. We need our Avatar to come and take care of this. So I think that was very telling. It's a good setup for what we're going to see, and hopefully it helps us as we move into our next episodes. So in terms of overall, I thought episode 7 was extremely well done. It's a very good episode. I encourage everyone to watch it and just look at it in terms of nuance. See what you can pick out. And oh my god, just the ending scene. The ending scene, I almost forgot, but oh my god, that ending scene alone, it's borrowed from another Avatar, you know, the one that was in theaters. And just wow. I mean, when they take their energy meter and they stick it in, you're like, well, what are they doing? They're like, this power from these spirit mines is even greater than the ones we got in Republic City. And you zoom out and it's a giant banyan grove tree, and they're about to cut it down, and you're like, no! It mirrors the scene from Avatar, the movie. Not Avatar Airbender, the movie, but Avatar, the one that everyone saw in 2006. Took 13 years to make. You've got the airships overhead ready to intervene if anything goes wrong. You've got the guys in the giant mech suits with chainsaws on the bottom just starting to cut into the tree. It is, scene for scene, almost the same, and it is just as heart-wrenching to watch. And the only thing I could say there is, you know what? That is the perfect setup for Toph. We're going to see Toph and Kuvira battle it out. Probably two of the best metal benders in the world are going to go head to head. Will it be the battle that we heard about in the comics? Because in the comics, Toph and King Boomy, they both claim to be the greatest earthbenders in the world. Well, the two of them go at it mano a mano. They never finish it. So guess what? If this is the two greatest earthbenders in the world going at it mano a mano, I'm telling you, this battle has been almost a century in the making. It has been decades in the making, and I cannot wait to see it. If they do not have Toph battle Kuvira, I will be so disappointed. Are we going to see Toph die? Possibly. I don't know. Would I be able to stand it? Probably not. But at this point, we just have to wait and see for episode 9. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be my review of episode 8 for Legend of Korra, Remembrances, and I have to say, oh my god, what did I just watch? It would be extremely easy for me to go and tear this episode to shreds. However, you know what? I've seen a lot of my fellow reviewers, and they are trying their best to put a positive spin on this. I mean, look at Rin. She went and she made an entirely positive review. She didn't go out of her way to search for anything bad, despite how easy it would have been. She made it completely positive. She managed to find something good about everything in this episode. Whereas when you have my friend Knifink, her reaction to seeing this episode was literally, what did I just watch? And it was only after I showed her Brian's Tumblr post that she shifted her rage from the writers to the network. And as much as I would love to go after the network the way she's done in her review, I can't put the blame solely on them. Now I'm going to try and give this a positive review, but I'm also going to give it its negative review. For the fairness of being objective and analytical, I will do my best to highlight some of the positives of this episode. But after that, I have to go into why I felt this episode was not up to snuff. But before I do that, I'd like to read just a small part of Brian's Tumblr post. To sum it up, he basically says, this is the excuse for why this episode exists. He says, sometime around a year and a half ago, we were similarly duped on a larger scale. We got news from the higher-ups, so basically the suits told them that the Book 4 budget was being slashed by almost an entire episode's budget, and they had two options. Option 1, let a significant number of crew members go several weeks early, or number 2, make a clip episode. And they said that they never considered the first option, which, you know what? Good on you guys, because you know what? They know what Korra is, and they know what it takes to make this show great. They know they need every person of talent that they could bring together to make the show and give it the quality that we've come to expect and that we've always expected from Korra. Sure, sometimes it's been good, sometimes it's been bad, but our expectation for quality has always been there. But then there's option 2. And they called it an option, and this is where I really do get angry at the writers, or I take a little bit of a difference of opinion with the writers. Let me relate this to another Avatar. Let's look at Avatar Shyamalan's Avatar the Airbender movie. Everyone come back, come back, come back. This is not what you think it's going to be. When the lies, and you know what I'm talking about, when the lies started to come out from Shyamalan about the movie, how, oh, it wasn't accepted well in North America, but Europe and Asia are very happy with the movie. It's more their art style, and they loved it. While Europe and Asia responded to Mr. Shyamalan and said, hey, you know that piece of crap movie you made? Yeah, we hated it too. So you know what? Stop lying. We didn't like it any more than North America did. And then the backpedaling went further. And he started to say, well, you know what? There were budget issues, and then the studio executive wanted his daughter to play Qatar to be the main role, and then this, that, the other. And all these other lies came out. Or half-truths, I should say. Half-truths, half-lies. They all came out about the mess that had resulted in this particular addition, if you could call it that, to the Avatar franchise. And to Mr. Shyamalan, he had an option. Here's what it was. Walk away. You have that option. You're allowed to do that. As a director, when you see that a film is going completely south, it doesn't matter what contract you've signed. You're allowed to go and say, look, I would rather not, I have to walk away from this. I would rather not have my name attached to it. You're allowed to quit. And if you're worried about being blackballed in terms of making a movie and then saying, look, I quit, I'm not going to do this movie, let's look at what the fallout was. Okay, so he quits the production of Nickelodeon's Avatar Airbender movie, and he then goes and he does something else. You know what? Sure, he might be blacklisted by Viacom, but at least he has his career. He could have at least gone, possibly, I don't know if this is true, but he could have gone and done another movie that would not have been as bad. And when the movie did come out and it bombed, it would not be his fault, because you know what? He quit. He's no longer associated with that movie. He could have pulled his script and said, you know what? I'm not doing this. and at least he would have come out of that intact. He made the movie. However, that's not what happened. History tells us that he made the movie, and it was a failure. Hollywood and every other production house that saw that looked at Shyamalan and promptly dusted their hands of him and threw him out on his ear. Nickelodeon and Viacom included. They said, you know what? Thanks for making this bomb for us. You're never working in Hollywood again. And guess what? He, with the exception of whatever After Earth was, it's come true. I mean, he's off making indie movies and for the Cannes Film Festival somewhere. The man's career in Hollywood is over. I mean, look, if you're an aspiring screenwriter and you have a script, go to the bank, take out a loan to make your movie. Send him, don't even send him $5,000. Send him a check for $1,000 in your screenplay. He will probably be knocking on your door in 2 to 3 weeks' time. Because that is, his career is over because he decided to stay with something that was absolutely horrible. How does this relate to this particular episode? Well, you know what? If when Nickelodeon handed you this budget and they said, look, it's going to be a severe budget cut, you've got to do something, right? Clip shows should not have been an option. It should have been, well, you know what? You should have gone and said, okay, well, you know what? For the money you've given us, we can't make 13 episodes. Just drop this episode entirely and make 12. Say, look, we can only deliver 12. And if they absolutely insist on 13, that's where negotiations begin. Because you say, look, we don't have the money to make 13, and even if we were to let our staff go, we couldn't do it to the quality that would make you guys money, alright? Always hit them where it hurts, in their wallet. Tell them, look, you want to make money, you gotta spend money. That's how you do it. This is not, putting out a Tumblr post to basically explain what happened is an excuse. There was always another option on the table, and that you could have taken that way out. Sure, I know you signed a contract with Nickelodeon, you sold your soul to them, or you probably didn't know, but they stole your soul somewhere in the contract, and now you owe them 13 episodes. But you've got to draw the line somewhere. You have to be able to say, stop. We're not doing this, okay? Sure, even if season 4, I honestly ask you, if season 4 did not have this episode, would it be any poorer? Especially considering we're going into the finale in the next 4 or 5 days. So that's my feeling on the Tumblr post. I mean, they're talking about how they did an awesome job on the storyboard and all these other little things they inserted, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It still was not, your final product is not up to par, okay? And this is the reason why. So, going beyond all that, let's actually begin the review of the episode itself. So I'm going to try and do a positive review, and then I'm going to have to do my negative review. So you're going to see 2 reviews. So let's begin with the positives. The first part is exquisitely funny. We see Mako and his grandmother and Prince Wu and his cousin. They're all talking about the time that he dated Asami and Korra in season 1 and through season 2. And the chibi art that they did over the scenes was exquisitely cute, and it was a pleasure to look at. I wish they had done it throughout the rest of the episode. Like, if they had Chibi Asami, I probably would have liked this episode a lot more than I do. But they didn't. If they had Chibi Asami, Chibi Korra, Chibi Varric, Chibi Bolin as they were doing their other clips, I would have been fine with that. It would have been very cute. But they didn't, and so I went and I looked up a whole bunch of chibis. Would you like to see them? Here they are. This is Chibi Asami. This is Angry Chibi Asami. And then here's a couple of Chibi Korra, only with her long hair. I couldn't find any of her with her short hair. Oh, and I also picked up a bunch of Azula pictures. Because, you know, once you start Googling Avatar, you gotta Google Azula. This last one was that last one was actually done by the same person who did the kissing gif. So, just way to go on him. If he is not an artist for the Avatar series, he's really, really, really good. I'm gonna link his DeviantArt down there so you can go and check him out, because oh my god, that kiss. If you haven't saved that kiss, the link is down there. Go get it, save it. Just amazing, amazing. But moving on. The bit with Asami and Korra, it was nice to see the two of them having a legitimate conversation. And what the conversation showed us is that Asami is there for Korra. She's there to support her when she's feeling down. She's there to keep her from falling into a depression. She's there to fight for Korra when Korra is not willing to fight for Korra. And to just show that it really does show Asami cares for Korra, and it was a real watershed moment in their relationship. It really it felt true to character, and I was glad to see it. If you're a Korra Asami fan, you'll love the fact that happened. And then there's the final part of this episode, and it's probably the closest we are ever going to get to an Avatar Legend of Korra movie. And quite frankly, I'm fine with that, because I wouldn't want to see an Avatar Legend of Korra movie anyways. It made me like Bolin. The last part really did make me like Bolin. And it was... Okay, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't lie. The last part, I hate most of all. It offends me. It offends me as a reviewer. It offends me as a fan of the show. It offends me as a viewer of media in general. I'm sorry, I can't do it. That was the positive review, guys. We've got to get into the negative. I'm sorry. This is the way we're going. I've never lied to you as my viewers, and I'm not about to do so now. This episode was objectively bad. And you know what? You remember how I said Knife Inc. Absolutely hated it? Here's the quote that I'm supposed to attribute to her. She says, "I'll throw in this tidbit, Nickelodeon sucks." You want to know what her raw reaction was when she first found out about what Nickelodeon did? OMG, F Nickelodeon. F-U-C-K Nickelodeon. Capital letters the entire way. That was the tweet I received. That was the anger that she felt. And you know what? My anger is 10 times worse than that. Because you want to know something? They went and they posted this excuse. They might be able to divert her anger. They're not able to divert mine. Because you want to know something? They said, "I hope you enjoy this, especially a last light-hearted, nostalgic romp before shit gets real," and then the series is done. You want to know something? This is not a light-hearted romp. This is a trip down their worst writing. They took... Let me make it clear. I love clip shows. I think they're hilarious because you get to see all the different things that have been done. You see bloopers. It reminds you and it refreshes you, hey, this is what we've been through. This is the journey we've gone on. And you want to know something? They're a great way when you want to get somebody else into the show to show them, hey, this is what the show's about. Click. Here's some of the summary. Hey, you know what? That's pretty interesting. I'm going to go and I'm going to find out more details about that. That's what a clip show does. And that's what good clip shows do. But there's something inherent in that. A clip show takes its best writing, its best work, its best filmography, and its funniest stuff, and it puts it to the viewer and it says, here, this is what we've been through, this is what we have to work with. This clip show did not do that. And let me be clear, there is good writing to be found in certain places in seasons 1 and seasons 2. As much as I dislike season 1 and season 2, they have some really, really good stuff. The stuff with Avatar 1 in season 2, amazing. In season 1, Amon. The Amon storyline is probably one of the best just black and white villains you will ever see. And he is scary. Because, look, one, Amon is dead. Two, Amon does not even live in my world. Guess what? He still frightens me. The scene in episode 4 of season 1 where Korra is on Avatar Aang Island and they throw out a bunch of wires, capture her, and drag her in, it looks like something out of a horror movie. And then you see Amon step out of the shadows and you think, oh my god, they're going to rape Korra, they're going to take her powers, and then they're going to murder her. I was having ladies and gentlemen, I have a weak heart. I was having palpitations watching that. That is how scary that is. Okay? That was probably one of the best parts of season 1. Oh my god, the Amon stuff was so wow. But you know what? For season 1, you know what they chose to recap? They chose to give us, with Mako's story, the worst possible thing they could have done. They gave us the love triangle. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. The one thing that detractors, fans, reviewers, everyone has decried as probably the worst part of season 1. They went and they spent the very first part of this episode desperately trying to make fun of it. And you know what? It doesn't work. Because all it did was it showed us everything we already knew. If you've been watching the show, if you watched season 1, even if you are generally aware of what season 1 was. And it's already a pretty awkward season in terms of its flow because it does not flow into season 2. It does not flow into season 3. It almost stands as its own little mini-series. But they went and they didn't tell us. They took Mako. They took Prince Wu, and Mako is basically telling us the love story of season 1 again. And he's not giving us his side of it. He's not giving us any reason for what happened. All we're seeing is all of the horrible, horrible things that he did to Asami and he did to Korra. And you know what? It makes me angry. It makes me physically angry. Because you know what? On top of it just being really bad writing, it makes Mako look horrible. For one, just as a reviewer, looking at Mako's character, I have tried so hard to divert attention from that and to actually analyze his character and read more into it than what other people see. Like, oh, he's a thug. Oh, he's a criminal. Oh, he's a horrible person. You know what? I've tried to look into it. People have said he has as much personality as a styrofoam cup. And you know what? I took offense to that. And I said, you know what? Let's look at his character. Before Korra came along, what is Mako's role? He basically has to take care of his brother. He's the breadwinner for the two of them. He's the one who has to do all the hard work. And he's basically had to be the adult of the relationship. So you know what? The fact that he's plain as toast, I can get that. Because you know what? When people are forced into that situation where they can't have fun, they don't have a day off, they have to constantly be worrying about where their next meal is coming from or whether or not they can have a roof over their head. Yeah, you know what? Things like personality and charm and interest, they go out the window in favor of, living. So I would look at it like that. I say, well, you know what? He's his brother's keeper. He's loyal. He takes care of him. He takes care of the people he cares about. He clearly does care deeply about Korra and Asami and Bolin because he's there. He's fighting with them. He wants to try and protect them. This episode took all that other stuff, and just crushed it. Completely and utterly crushed it like a tin can. Oh, wow. I mean, even having, and we even had his grandmother come in and basically say, you know what, you're just like your grandfather was. She was basically saying everything that we the viewers have been saying. The show was extremely critical of itself. But you know what? There's a difference between being critical of yourself and laughing at yourself. And when you're laughing at yourself, it's fine because it's humorous. Here, let's take a look at this another way. But when you're being critical of yourself in that kind of way, especially when you're showing us something that's not your best writing, it really undermines your credibility. It's pointing out that something is not funny or charming at the very beginning is funny and charming. But you know what? If you continue to do it, guess what? It makes us, the viewer, think, hey, you know what? Nothing about that is funny or charming. And they left out important clips too in terms of the love story. Like when Mako gets together with Korra at the very end of season 1. They did not show us the scene that happened literally seconds before that, where Asami tries to be comforted by him and he basically pushes her away. And then he goes after Korra, literally breaking Asami's heart the second before he goes to pursue Korra. It is probably one of the most important scenes in terms of the love triangle and why it is bad, and also into why Asami is so royally screwed through season 1 and season 2. Oh! It didn't even attempt to explain his side of things. He didn't try to put a positive spin on it. He didn't do anything. He basically just told the story without any defense for himself. And oh wow, it was just done so badly. Part 2 of this, yes, seeing Asami and seeing Korra together and having this kind of intimate conversation is necessary for the relationship. I get it. But you know what? It completely and utterly disregarded everything that they did literally 3 episodes ago. And I was so confused as to why this was being brought up as an issue. Because we went through this already. We literally just finished going through this, and now we're going through it for a 3rd time. We went through it when we originally saw it happen. We went through it again when Toph was explaining it. Now we're going through it a 3rd time when Korra is explaining it to Asami. And I have to say this. This is one of the good things. When you first see Korra, when they show you the clip when she is just about to graduate into being an avatar and she's 16, you're like, oh my god, she's 16, she's so young. And then you're like, oh my god, where did the time go? No, I'm still beautiful, I'm still young, I can't, that much time hasn't passed. You're like, no, what is going on? So that part was fine. But other than that, it's basically just rehashing for us everything that we know Korra felt about Amon, Zahir, and Unalaq in the swamp. And it's based off of something that Toph said, where basically Korra was wallowing in self-pity. She was saying, look, I need to become better because I need to be the Avatar again. And Toph basically puts the brakes on that because Korra is thinking too far ahead. She's not focusing on what she needs to do now. So Toph, in her infinite wisdom, puts the brakes on that and says, listen, the world doesn't need you, right? The world is getting along fine without you at the moment, and it will continue to get along fine until you are ready. She's basically trying to say, until you're ready to go and bring balance to the world, guess what? The world does not need you. Things will continue on as they are until you are ready to be brought back into action, and then you will get... Because Toph then goes and she explains, look, here's everything that you've been carrying around. You need to let that go in order for you to be the Avatar that the world needs. You can't, if you're going to be fighting battles to balance the world out now, you can't be carrying with you the terroristic nostalgia of everything that you've already done. You need to learn from everything you've already done. Don't just completely disregard it. You need to learn from it, but you need to let those battles go. You need to rise above it and become better for it. And basically, that's exactly what Asami keeps telling Korra. And then Tenzin comes in, and he goes and he restates everything Asami said. So you're wondering to yourself, why are we being told this? We know all this already. We've seen it happen twice already, and now we've seen it happen 3 times in a row. And it feels so unwieldy. It feels so unnecessary. Is there literally nothing else that she and Korra could have been talking about? And then there's the last part of this episode, which for me is probably the most offensive. I'm offended as a reviewer. I'm offended as a Legend of Korra fan. I'm offended as someone who watches media in general. Because what this does is either brilliantly veiled or completely and utterly offensive, because what Michael and Brian did is call us, the viewers, idiots. They called us idiots. Allow me to elaborate. This scene takes place on the boat. Everyone's busy telling stories, and Varric decides to make a mashed up fan fiction of the 2 seasons that we've already gone through. And it is one of the strangest things I have ever seen. And God bless Bolin. Bolin is here as the straight man, and you know what? He was saying things that I would have been saying if I was present there. I am so proud of Bolin. He's basically critiquing everything that Varric is saying, and Varric basically rounds on him and goes, "Hey, you know what? You're just the on-screen personality. Leave this to the creative types." And it is the closest thing that we will ever get to an Avatar movie, and God bless them for doing that, because you know what? It completely avoids the sheer cluster of badness that would be. The reason I say it could possibly be brilliantly veiled, and I hope to God that this is the case, because if it's not, they have insulted us. They have insulted us, insulted us, insulted us. The Varric, in terms of a character, has always represented the big corporate capitalistic viewpoint. So you know what, in terms of movies and media, maybe, just maybe, hear me out here, maybe he represents Viacom. And every silly, contrived, dumbed down, watery plot that they've ever tried to pass off in terms of filmography, and that they just fill it with color and action and basically make it so that people go in, they watch, they go, "Hey, you know what? It was good," and then they come out and they basically leave them their money. If that's what, and you've got Bolin there as the thoughtful, the considerate, the actual person who cares about what the story is and how it should be represented. If that's what they're doing, it's brilliantly done, and done in a way that's extremely well veiled. But if it's not, it's extremely insulting. The very last scene shows everybody. So Varric is finished with his dumb, nonsensical, plot hole filled mover describing the story at literally a mile a minute. And everybody at the very end, they're clapping. They're going, "Yay, that was a wonderful story." And Bolin grabs one of them and he's like, "What are you doing? That was not a good story. There are so many plot holes." And he starts pointing out plot holes, and the guy literally turns to me and goes, "Hey, you know what? It's just a movie." No, sir. No, it is not just a movie. Entertainment is our cultural heritage. The stories that we create now are what other people are going to look back at us and say, "Hey, you know what? This is what they were thinking at the time. This is what they found significant. This is what they devoted themselves to." It's like if you're to go and you're to look in a museum at all the works of the old masters, the Impressionists, the Postmodernists, the Remembrances, the everything from the Romantic period, or just, and you were to say, "Well, you know, that's good, but it's not a bunch of crumbs on a plate. It's not something that I can see or hold or touch or blah blah blah." It's what people will remember us by, right? It's what we pass on. It's the stories we tell, and it's how we take our understanding of the world and give it forward. I know I'm standing on my soapbox and preaching in the way that I always have, but listen to me. Hear me out. The fan fiction that people come up with about this show, they do it because they're passionate and they care about the Avatar universe. And I guarantee you, I could find all kinds of fan fiction. Weird, sexual, non-sexual, completely out there, completely in line with the way the story of the show should go. Predictive, repulsive, thinking forward, looking back and analyzing. It's all there, and it's very thoughtful, and it's coming together. What we see is just, it's pop cultural, weird. I'm not even sure how to describe it. And you know what? I will never look at it again. Simply because I do not want to know what it's about. It's got a Mean Girls reference in it, for Christ's sake. It's a knife in the heart is what it is. And it's the misrepresentation of everything. Of just, it'd better be a critique of what happens when the suits go and decide, hey, we're gonna create something. Because you know what? It's offensive. It's saying, you know what? The only thing that you as a consumer like is this dumbed down, watery, simplified, non-intricate plot where everything is just action, explosions, and romance. And I am so ashamed of you. I am so ashamed of you, Brian and Michael, for peddling this to us. Of everything that I've seen you done it, including the Deus Ex Machinas of Season 1 and Season 2, and the meandering plot, of everything you've done, this has to be the worst. No, not has to be. This is the worst episode of Legend of Korra that has ever been created. And this episode is to Legend of Korra what the Great Divide is to Avatar The Last Airbender. And you want to know something? I would rank this even lower than the Great Divide. You want to know why? Because at least in the Great Divide, sure, it's pandering, it has nothing to do with the story, it keeps it, and in the end it teaches a horrible message. But you know what? At least it shows Avatar Aang willing to go outside the box, go outside what we consider his personality to be, just to solve a problem and bring balance to these two particular groups. This episode gives us nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I am ashamed to say I watched it. I do not think you should watch it. I think it is an absolute waste of time. It is objectively bad, and I am ashamed on behalf of the writers, the fans, and the critics to say that I watched this. So that has been my technical critique. As always, if you've made it this far, you are amazing, because I'm very hard to listen to, I'm very repetitive, and just, this has been, we're probably an hour in to the review now. But the review is done. I will see you in the discussion portion of this video. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is the discussion portion of our review where I read all of the comments that you've submitted to my videos, or to myself via Twitter or via Skype if you're that close to me. So, let us begin. The first comment comes from Juan Rodriguez. He says, this is for episode 7. He says, as for this episode, it was good, and if I have to blame someone for Korra's premature fight with Kuvira, it is none other than Su Yin. She continues to F things up more than they, and this is what happens at the end of the episode. I believe Korra is still not fully recovered from her mental problem, and Opal should be expelled from the Air Nomads for her attitude problem. Now, I read Bucky's comments about how Nick shows his lack of interest towards the Avatar Legend of Korra franchise, and this is not old news to me. Since the movie came out, which everyone despises, not me, I was hoping for a sequel or even a reboot. My friend, I was hoping for a sequel. Not because I like the movies, not at all. I wanted to see what happened next. I needed to see Azula on the big screen. I needed to see her. Would it have been the same as the show? Probably not, but I did need to see Azula on the big screen. Just once. Looking back, even if they did not hate the movie, I doubt Nick or Paramount would do a sequel. M. Night was ready for it, but alas no, and the success of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, that won't happen. However, there's a window open for the possibility. Remember the Nick movie, A Series of Unfortunate Events starring Jim Carrey back in 2004? After 10 years and no sequels, it is announced that Netflix is working with Paramount TV to create an original online series based on the books. Yes, I did hear about it, and I'm actually excited because, hey, you know what? This might actually be what we wanted to see out of that series. For those of you who don't know, A Series of Unfortunate Events was a 13-book series written by Lemony Snicket, otherwise known as, I've quite forgotten what his real name was. But it was a very good series of books, all things considered, and quite frankly, I would like to see it done properly as a television show. It probably works better as a television show. You could probably do it all in one season. Well, we will see. There's 13 books, 13 episodes, 1-hour episodes each. I think we could do it. The new series will air on Netflix and could be a sign of what will happen to Avatar: The Legend of Korra franchise in the future. I would love that. I would love to see Netflix do Avatar and do it right. It would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. Maybe that's where our sequel will come from. Guys, if you write fan fiction and you're good at it, and you know you're good at it, okay? Not if you're, no, if you know you're really good at it, and if you know you're a very good artist, and you love this series, write to Netflix. See if they'll hire you. You never know what could come of it. This might be a career opportunity. Go. I give it to you. Go and try it. Why not? Okay? Actually, what do you think about the reboot of TLA movies on Netflix? Why not? It was announced that Netflix will air a new sequel of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon next August, and it was going to be awesome. If Nick doesn't care for this franchise anymore, then give it to Netflix. I'm sure they'll make good use of it. My friend, I would love to see Netflix get a hold of this series and make good use of it. But the suits over at Nickelodeon are not that smart, okay? They would never in a million years recognize that they have something so good on their hands, but they can't make it themselves. They're not that smart. Alright, so that was Juan Rodriguez's comment. Thank you, Juan. Good comments as always. Suggest a show for us to review after Avatar Korra is done, because we've only got a few episodes left, and after that we are over. And I have no plans on reviewing, well, I might review the comics, you never know. Alright, so, moving on. Our next comment comes from BG Titan Avatar. I know you actually. I watched some of your reviews, and they're good. They're very good. Now, BG says, she's still a bit messed up in the head, bro. It's not really her fault. The poison wasn't the only thing keeping her from healing. Well, you're absolutely right. However, I do wonder what that thing could possibly be. A lot of people are speculating that it's traumatic nostalgia. And I'm not, or PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, disorder, for those of you who are not familiar with the term I just used. We shall see. We can only wait and see. I mean, it's good to speculate, but quite frankly, there's nothing we can do except speculate. I think that Korra might actually have to enter the spirit world and do a mano-a-mano showdown with her PTSD self before she can go and actually be the avatar she needs to be. You never know, but I think that that might be what happens. Alright, moving on. The next comment on my YouTube channel comes from Juan Rodriguez. It's only 5 words long. Thank you, Juan. You said, I hope you get better. Well, I hope I get better too, because this is hard. It's hard to do this, and I love to do it. And something you should love to do should never be hard. So when you're sick, you can only hope to get better. And you know what? I hope the series gets better with me. I hope that when it ends, I end on a positive note, it ends on a positive note. And we can all come together and celebrate. Alright, so those are the YouTube comments. We're going to move on to Knife Inc.'s review. And she did it in tweet form because we had quite the Twitter conversation. So I'm just going to read you what the review says. Alright, let's begin. She says, Because I have a small amount of time, but not enough to make a recording, I will offer some thoughts on Legend of Korra briefly. The 7th episode, Reunion, was good. There was good action, some subtle Korrasami, and I enjoyed seeing Wu get knocked out. That felt good. Well, you're not wrong. It was a pretty good episode. It was solid so far as action, it was solid so far as character development, and it was solid so far as plot, in terms of the setup for what the season finale is going to be. Reunion was another solid episode, not on the same high level as Korra alone, but still very much worth the watch. Well, it was more Bolin alone. That's how I would see it. That's Bolin alone. Except he wasn't alone. You know what I mean. Okay. She also continues. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, short review, let's turn to what everybody's been talking about, the 8th episode, Remembrances. First of all, I'll share this article. It's an article on the marysue.com, her thoughts on Remembrances. And I think past that continues. She said, I was really shocked and upset when the 8th episode first came on. I hated it. We've already seen all that after all. Even Varric's sequence didn't thrill me. I kind of saw what they were trying to do, but Varric verged on extremely annoying. Oh, Knifink, you're so forgiving. She said, to be clear, I love Varric usually. Then I read up on the episode and discovered that it is actually the most solid piece of evidence besides Season 2 we have to show how Nick's been effing around with this show and its creators. Which I always knew before, but this time everyone else isn't being silent about it. Most reviews of this episode are actually angry criticism launched at Nick. Well, not this review. I'm sorry, my dear. You're right. It is mostly Nickelodeon's fault, but there is a modicum of blame that goes with the writers. She says, I would say good riddance, except it doesn't look like it matters much at this point. Nick never knew what to do with Korra. Its fan base was set just as its story. It's not like SpongeBob. You can't just jump in at any time. Not to mention that the animation, being phenomenal, was of course extremely expensive. But given how huge a network and business Nick is, I find it hard to believe that they couldn't shell out a few more bucks. My dear, you're preaching to the choir. Nickelodeon. You know what? It's weird. I was watching Futurama last night, and they had an episode where they've got the Nickelodeon network, because, you know, they're parasites on children, was approaching Leela and they're like, hey, we like your stories. Let's make an episode. And basically one of the jokes was, how hard is it to make a TV show on $50 an episode? And I couldn't help but think, wow, you know what? That is exactly how Nickelodeon thinks. It's not that they don't have the money, it's just that they're not willing to spend it on things that matter. I don't know what they're spending the money on. Tell me, what is Nickelodeon spending the money on? More SpongeBob Kwanzaa episodes? Are we going to have a SpongeBob Christmas episode for every one of the 12 days of Christmas? A Hanukkah one too? Because you know what? I do not know what they're spending the money on. They're probably smoking it. She continues. Unless the finale has animation akin to Fantasia, there's no excuse for episode 8. Nick could have made more money off of Korra if it wanted to. It just wasn't patient or respectful enough to give the creators or the animators the time they deserve to actually fully flesh out the story like they did with Avatar. Korra is not your typical female protagonist, and the show doesn't deal with typical issues. It's actually quite dark. I'm going to make a video on that. I'm going to call it the dark side of it, the dark side of the Avatar series or something, the dark side of whatever, and it will be awesome, and I'm going to go through all that stuff. And I would say that Nick doesn't know what to do with sophisticated storytelling. But clearly it's not true. Look at Avatar. No, Avatar is the exception to the rule. Nickelodeon is a show it's a network based on fart jokes. I mean, come on. Drake and Josh was a good TV series. It was funny, but you know what? They're based on sitcoms. That's what they know to do. They're dinosaurs. They're dinosaurs. They don't know how to look forward. The fact that Nickelodeon was responsible for Avatar would be like if somebody had a kid and then abandoned that kid, and then that kid grew up to be like a Nobel Prize winning scientist or something like that. Then that's the association. They gave birth to it, but other than that, they didn't do anything for it at all. It was all the writers. It was all everyone else that took that show and made it what it was. Nickelodeon is the absentee parent of good television. What makes Korra so different? Sure, the characters are older and some of the themes are darker, but there's still plenty that makes it enjoyable for young audiences. I'd say some of the humor is even younger than Avatar's. Oh, you have no idea. The slapstick in Korra is redonkulous. It's no. It's not nearly the level of humor that I would expect out of an Avatar franchise piece of writing. She continues, and it's not like Avatar didn't have a share of dark material. Avatar had genocide, enslavement, psychopaths, and child abuse, arguably. You also forgot fratricide, and, you know, murder, potentially mind control, that was one of them. There's a lot of dark stuff, let's not go through it all. And in many ways, Korra, at least in the beginning, was less mature than Aang, or at the very least more brash and hot-headed. I won't disagree with you there. Honestly, Korra's inner turmoil may be darker, but the show's not really that much darker than Avatar was. So what's the difference? Is it that most of the interesting characters are female? Is it that the fan base is older? Is it that the animation is too expensive? Is it that Korra is a female lead that isn't a size 0 dumb and feminine? Whatever it is. Okay, allow me to explain this. Nickelodeon, when they first came up with the idea for the Avatar series, they tested it for boys. And they said, well, we're not sure because they wouldn't like a female character. And the guys are like, hey, you know what? Korra kicks ass. She's amazing. Here's the thing, though. Korra is... If Korra was a costume drama, or if it was a more sophisticated... If it was being produced by a more sophisticated network, it would be amazing. But the problem is Nickelodeon, as I said, they don't have enough juice in their brains to light a light bulb. So you know what? It simply is this. They saw numbers in the beginning, but they aren't seeing numbers in the end. And you know what? That's a natural progression of a television show. It usually starts off strong and it goes, and the viewers leave or jump ship, and only the hardcore people will remain. But you know what? It's still a lot of us that are here. And the fact of the matter is, simply because Korra doesn't conform to what their formula is, the fact that it still works should be applauded. Just because it's not formulaic doesn't mean it doesn't work. Great. Absolutely wonderful. It says yes, there's a hope for creative writing out there. Not everything has been written. There's still something to see. It just isn't all Jersey Shore and reality television. I mean, quite frankly, if Nickelodeon got into reality television for kids next, I wouldn't be surprised. Not at all. That's all they want. They want something formulaic and dumb that people just turn on and not have to think about. They hate when they have to think about things. Whatever it is, it most certainly is a misconception on Nickelodeon's part. I mean, look at the praise the show has received. Is it Avatar? No. But that's okay. They couldn't have possibly expected to recreate a show that brilliant. They weren't trying to. No, you're right. They weren't trying to. They created something completely different, and you want to know something? I'm okay with it. It's as good as Avatar was, at least these last few seasons, because they had the wiggle room that they needed in order to make the story as epic and as grand as the old Avatar was. And you know what? I'm glad for that. It never had to be Avatar, right? We didn't... As much as there were unanswered questions and everything, it never had to be Avatar. It's Airbender. It's its own thing, and we're all okay with that now. Even me, who was a little bit upset that it wasn't Avatar Airbender in the beginning. You know what? Even I'm cool with it. So if I'm cool with it, you know that they did something right. Legend of Korra is its own show, and it deserves to be treated the same as any other show, including Avatar. I truly hope the final episodes are the most amazing pieces of goddamn television ever, because if not, well, I'm not blaming the writers. Well, I can only partially blame the writers. You're absolutely correct. Everything that has ever gone wrong with Nickelodeon, with Legend of Korra, can be traced back to the suits. And you want to know something? It's sad. It truly is. It's not sad on the part of the writers. It's just, here's the thing. They gave the writers so much crap that they never, and I mean never, want to revisit the Avatar universe again. That has to be the greatest crime of all. That we will never have another series like Avatar simply because the writers are burnt out. And it falls to us, the fans, the super fans who really know Avatar, to continue the series. Whether or not it does get sold to Netflix, or whether or not Nickelodeon decides, hey, you know what, we're going to reboot it for a third series. New writers come in and write and show the passion that Michael and Brian had in creating the original. It falls to us, and that is the shameful part. Because most writers revel in what they create. It is their world for them to play around and manipulate as they do so please. And I am so sorry for what Nickelodeon has done, not just to the show, but to the writers themselves, and has forced me to say about the writers. I've said so many terrible things, most of which was justified. I'm not going to take back everything bad I ever said about Season 2, because everything I saw in Season 2, my critique was justified. It was not a good season. But even so, I do feel that they've come pretty damn close to redeeming themselves. And I can only hope that whatever they come up with next, it is as world-changing as what we've seen these last few years. There, I said it. I finally said it. Alright. And our final comment comes from the great Kieran Oliver. My apologies. When I asked her what she wanted me to quote her on in terms of this review, she said overall, they did the best they could with what they had, but Nick is doing Korra a disservice overall. And you know what? She's right, as always. She wrote a wonderful review of this episode. It was magnanimous and very generous to the episode, but overall, it was no good. I'm going to link you to her review. I think you should read it, just so that you could pick out what good this episode might have done. As horrible as it was, I do think that there might have been some good in it. And you know what? If Varric's part is a critique of the network, even better. If that's the case, if I hear that that's what it is later on, I'll recommend the episode as a must watch. Because you need that background, you need that base. Otherwise, it just seems insulting. So this has been the discussion portion of the review. I'm the technical critic. If you want to participate in our discussion, you want to hear me read your comment, you want to have a question answered, you want to join the discussion, anything at all, leave your comment in the comment section and it will always end up here in the review. On Twitter, leave it as a tweet. On Reddit, leave it as a Reddit post. It will... I look everywhere and I find everything and put it in here. So, I will see you next week, and as always, the review will go on.